So you decided it was time for a change and you're tired of the same mundane, boring routine that you live every day. So you're moving abroad. It's exciting, it's scary and it's confusing, but no one talks about the quiet guilt that you carry from the moment that you make the decision to move. You start wondering if putting yourself first is hurting other people, and it'll eat you up if you let it. It might even stop you from changing your life. Moving abroad, specifically Queensland, sounds pretty good. It's an opportunity to reinvent yourself, meet new people and explore a completely different part of the world. It's a fresh start, but more importantly, it's freedom. And for the most part, it is exactly that. But it's also sudden waves of sadness that come when you're just choosing laundry detergent in the supermarket. And it's feeling heavy after people visit from back home that leave you staying awake at night, questioning every decision you've made. The point is, you can be living somewhere absolutely incredible and still miss what you've left behind. The first guilt appears shortly after you make the decision to move, and it builds slowly throughout the months, the weeks and the days leading up, with the most crippling guilt coming around 2 weeks before you are due to move away. I remember specifically having a chat with my mum before we left, and I opened up a little bit about how I felt like I was stuck and trapped and there was a lot more in the world for me, and the heavy feeling of responsibility that I had for everyone. And that short conversation did make me feel some relief short term, but it still left that quiet, shameful guilt, feeling like it was my responsibility to make my whole family happy. Most people talk about how brave you are for moving to a different country, or how lucky you are for moving to a different country. But realistically, it's not bravery or luck, it's actually a really big decision that was probably made over a long period of time. It's a life choice that's not taken lightly. The first few months after you move are absolutely fantastic. That quiet little voice in the back of your brain telling you to feel guilty goes quiet. You're really excited about your new life and you're completely distracted by visiting new places, new accents, and to be honest, the chaos of moving abroad. This is the absolute best time. You'll have all sorts of new ideas about how you want to live your life, like the keto diet might be the answer to all your prayers, or maybe a new hobby is koala spotting. You'll probably reinvent your wardrobe and buy heaps of new clothes that you needed, so that you can just dress appropriately to whatever climate you're moving to, and then you'll probably buy another 12 outfits that you probably didn't need. If you're watching this as a bloke and it's about time that you put a ring on it, now's probably the time to do it, the first few months in. The problem is, once things settle down, it'll hit you, usually around 3 to 4 months in. I was making dinner like 4 months into us living on the Gold Coast, and suddenly this overwhelming nauseous feeling came over me, as well as sadness, and that guilt that was quietly in the back of my brain came back for that day. And honestly, just for that day, I wish I could have just teleported back home just to check that everyone was still okay. So we booked a flight back home, a return flight for 2 weeks. It's all the little things that you remember from back home that funnel the guilt back into your brain. Like when your dishwasher chime sounds similar to the one back home, or the squeaky door that reminds you of when you came in at 2 a.m. when you were 18 after a heavy night out, or when like Facebook tells you it's someone's birthday and you've not spoken to them for like 3 years. These quiet moments often will send you a reminder of what your life used to be like, and it'll put that thought back in your brain. And surprisingly, actually, they probably come more often after a really great day. You essentially feel guilty for being happy. Your family dynamics will also shift when you leave. But why? I lived at home until I was 26. And living at home was often just 4 people, me, my brother, and my parents, passing by. We all had busy lives. Maybe occasionally we'd have a short conversation. When you move abroad, you might find, because this is what I found, that your family dynamics will change and your relationships will get more intense. In a good way. FaceTime calls become more purposeful catch-ups. And if you get the chance to visit home, or family get the chance to visit you, these are the best times. It's like all the little hellos and the small chats that you would have had back home, but all compacted into like 2 weeks. Recently, my parents actually visited from the UK. They came to us, to Queensland, to the Gold Coast where I live. And it was 2 weeks of just pure fun, connection, beers, and spending lots of money. But it was so much fun. And honestly, it was probably the closest I have ever felt to my mum and dad as an adult, even though we live so far apart and don't spend much time together. And this is something that people don't talk about. I feel emotionally closer to my parents, despite the fact that we're a lot of miles away. But you've got to put the effort in. Let's talk about the word selfish. I want you to think about who actually benefits if you stay somewhere where you're not happy. Because realistically, it's probably no one. Not to mention staying somewhere for someone else might actually turn into resentment quite easily. Let's reframe this. If you have kids, then imagine this. But if you don't, then imagine you've got kids. Imagine your kid comes up to you and says, Mum, Dad, I want to go and live in Australia, assuming you're from the UK. Or Mum, Dad, I want to go and live in the UK, assuming you're from Australia. As a parent, you probably want to support your child, and actually you'd probably feel guilty if you didn't support them. Point is, I'm guessing most of us would encourage it because then the guilt would be with you. Feeling guilty means you care, and that's good. I want you to try and reframe guilt, because guilt and missing someone can sometimes be distracted as the same thing. And the fact is, it's mostly only you that's going to use that word selfish. You're probably also going to feel more yourself when you move to a different country, probably lighter. My parents' biggest question when I told them I was going to move to Australia, and actually during the build-up, was that I was going to change as a person, and they were worried that I was going to change as a person. And to be honest, I have changed, but I've changed for the better. I've been told by friends and family that I seem happier, I seem more relaxed, I seem calmer and lighter, and that's because I am. So basically the consensus between my family right now is that I've not changed, I've just become a better version of myself, a more laid back version. I basically moved to Australia, grew a mustache, and decided to chill the fuck out. When you move countries, you don't just move countries, you move into a new version of yourself. To be honest, over time, it gets easier, or at least it gets easier to carry the feeling of guilt. You'll still have moments, but they'll be more short-lived and you'll know how to deal with them. For me, things like FaceTime calls with my family definitely help me cope with the guilt and the feelings of feeling like I've upset someone else by moving to a different country, or even jump on a game with my brother. We do a little bit of online gaming, gives us a chance to catch up and chill out, and very often that will help massively. I mean, you could probably try having a beer over FaceTime, but for me that would mean either me or whoever I was having a beer with drinking first thing in the morning. Each to their own, you could probably do that. Eventually you'll realise that missing someone doesn't have to feel guilty. You feel guilt because you don't know how to deal with it. And the guilt in this situation is your brain telling you that you miss people, not that you made the wrong choice. There's something I've realised this year that I didn't expect. You can be exactly where you're supposed to be and still miss where you came from. The guilt that you feel sometimes and the random wave of sadness when life is actually going really well, it doesn't mean that you've made the wrong choice. It just means that you've got people and places that mattered to you. And that's not weakness, that's depth. No one really tells you that growth feels a little bit like grief, because you're not just changing countries, you're shedding an old version of yourself. Old routines, old comforts, old identity, and of course it feels weird sometimes. You didn't just upgrade your life, you outgrew parts of it. And here's the mad part. You don't actually have to solve it. Maybe the goal isn't to stop missing home. Maybe the goal is to build a life that's big enough where happiness and missing someone can actually sit at the same table without kicking off. I don't know where I'll end up long term. Maybe it'll be Australia. Maybe it'll be back to the UK. Maybe it will be somewhere else completely different. But I do know this. I feel more like myself right now. And that's the only compass that I've got. So if you're watching this and you're feeling guilty for wanting more, for leaving, for growing, you're not selfish, you're not ungrateful, you're just becoming. And that is uncomfortable sometimes, but it's also where all the good stuff in life lives. So go on, message your mum, book the flight, and go and chase the thing that you've been thinking about. You can miss people and still move forward. Both can exist.